Hey, it's Mose. You know what time it is. We're talking Monster Hunter. I think I've got a pretty interesting topic for today. Do you remember that popularity poll that Capcom ran a while back? You got to choose your favorite monster and all that? I think we've seen all the results. Zinogre got first place. Big shocker. And Steel Uragaan won the biggest stinker award for last place.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Anyways, I started thinking about those monsters near the bottom of the poll. Why are they there? The easy answer in some cases is, well, they're old-gen monsters that haven't shown up in 5th gen, but monsters like White Fatalis or Legiacris, who haven't been around for a while, were in the top 20, so clearly that isn't the whole story. I want to take a few monsters near the bottom of the poll, analyze them for why they're unpopular, and then do a bit of speculation on what could be done to improve them or make them more likable if they were to be brought into a new game. To preface the main topic a bit first, this is of course entirely speculative. The poll just asked you for your favorite monster, and there's any number of reasons why someone might have chosen one monster over any of the others. Additionally, all the monsters I talk about are going to be subspecies and variants, not because I'm cherry-picking them really, I am skipping over all of the raptors, but just at the bottom of the poll is mostly comprised of them. I think there's a few reasons for that. Subspecies and variants are most common in G-rank games, and there's many of them that just haven't shown up for a while. One of the monsters I'm going to talk about hasn't been seen in a game since 2nd generation, for example. There's a lot working against these monsters being anyone's favorite, not even considering their actual substance in a given game, which will contribute a lot to this discussion as well. Enough stalling though, let's get into the real stuff. I spent some time considering which monsters had the highest potential to be really good and likable with some changes. I feel like not all monsters have the same potential for growth. You could look at someone like Volvidon, but what are you really going to do to quote-unquote fix him? He's just a goofy little man that farts and sticks his tongue out. I'm not sure he even needs fixing. He's not very well liked, but not every monster has to be. So it took some time for me to really narrow down some monsters that would be good for this discussion. Ultimately, the first monster I settled on was Ruby Basarios. I think a lot of people are actually familiar with him. He was only in 4 and 4 Ultimate, but those are hardly obscure games. He could be found in expeditions, guild quests, and event quests, so I think basically anyone who played those games has probably fought him. I think there's a few glaring issues with Ruby Basarios. Of course, it can't be ignored that he's a Basarios subspecies. Basarios on his own is not exactly beloved or interesting, so he's starting from a disadvantaged position. Even in 5th gen, which was probably Basarios' biggest shot at getting some good attention, they kind of failed to make him seem interesting. That doesn't mean we can't think of how to get Ruby at least up to where normal Basarios is, though. Gameplay-wise, Ruby Basarios' biggest flaw is that he's just Basarios, except he flings pink rocks at you, and by at you I mean kind of in your general direction. Even for old-gen standards, this wasn't particularly interesting or threatening, and especially not in 4U. And mind you, Basarios has never been a threatening monster, even going back to 1st or 2nd gen, but Ruby is a subspecies. I think there's room to make him a bit more like an advanced Basarios. Flinging rocks isn't very interesting, but it is a good foundation to build off of, and thus these are my proposed changes. Firstly, let's say that the changes in his biological composition due to the gemstones has awakened some of his latent abilities. And by that I mean give him a bit more of Ravios' moveset, mainly his beam. Basarios can already use a beam, but it's pretty uncommon for him to use it, and weak. Let's give him the full-on Gravios sweeping beam. This will give him a bit more attack opportunities from range, and make him seem a bit more like an advanced stage of Basarios development. For the rock flinging, I'd say this generally works as is, but needs something to spice it up a bit. I'd like to turn these into more of an area denial hazard. Rather than just flinging a rock at you when he does certain moves, I think the rocks should fly off of him into the surrounding area, especially as he does charges and rolls, and remain on the field for a time. As you fight him, the area will increasingly become covered in gemstones that will deal damage to you if you step on them. Additionally, gemstones in real life can be rather sharp at times, so let's give these rocks bleed if you take damage from them as well. So now Ruby Basarios creates a minefield of sharp gems that you must maneuver around as you fight. For one final addition, and this might be cooking a little bit too hard, but I really want this guy to have something very unique about him. I want to replace the classic Basarios Fire and Poison Cloud AoEs. Instead, he could do a red AoE of vaporized crystalline dust, which in addition to dealing damage will inflict a unique status that causes crystals to begin forming on the player, causing slowness until they're shaken off. I think with these changes, Ruby Basarios would begin to feel much more like his own monster that stands out from normal Basarios, while making his fight a lot more engaging and interesting. Next on the list, we have Copper Blangonga. I think this might be a legitimately obscure monster. Most people are probably familiar with Blangonga, but not his subspecies relative who is completely locked in Freedom Unite G rank. Copper Blangonga is a really cool monster if you're interested in the history of the series. Prior to his introduction, subspecies monsters were largely just recolors of existing ones, Blue Yankuku, Pink Rathian, Green Plesioth, and so on. The difference between the main species and the subspecies were extremely minor, if not completely unnoticeable. Copper Blangonga was one of the first to truly be a different monster visually and mechanically. Copper Blangonga is a desert-dwelling Blangonga who lives a solitary lifestyle compared to the snowy Blangonga that is surrounded by the Blongos. He flings rocks and spits sand that can stun you. This is a lot of words to say that I don't think Copper has any actual mechanical issues that really hold him back. He's kind of just not well known. So, now you know about him. He's cool. Go play Freedom Unite and fight him. You'll like him, I promise. Go ask Capcom to bring him back. Let's cook up some new gameplay stuff anyway though, since that's what the video is about, and he'll need some extra sauce to keep up with newer gen monsters anyway. I'm thinking I want to give him two main new mechanics. One is a modification to his ground slam. 5th gen monsters are pretty crazy, so let's give Copper some earthbending, where when he does his ground slam, little sand geysers will pop up around him. So if you don't get hit by the slam, but still get tremored, you're likely to get hit by these little geysers. Secondly, Blangonga has always been kind of the halfway point on the monkey scale between Kongalala and Rajang, so let's make sure Copper's got that dog in him and give him something reminiscent of Rajang's boulder throw. He's going to grab a big ball of sandy rock and throw it at you, breaking apart into pieces on contact. But he's not going to lob it at you like Rajang, he's going to roll it along the ground like a bowling ball. And you can't just sidestep it, Copper's on his game. He's going to put a little spin on it so it'll home in on you just a bit if you try to move out of the way. This now concludes the 2nd gen propaganda portion of the video. Last on the list, we have the one you've been waiting for, Steel Uragaan. Oh boy, what to even say here. As was said previously, Steel Uragaan is the last place ranking on the poll. He's a monster introduced in Portable 3rd and can also be found in 3 Ultimate. So, why is he so unpopular? Well, to begin with, Uragaan is not exactly a popular monster. There's no issue with visibility here, since Uragaan was in World. People just don't like him. I think there's a few reasons for this. His design isn't particularly appealing. The needlessly gigantic chin that looks like it would make it hard to eat, the weird flat face and human-like teeth. Uragaan was meant to be the 3rd gen version of Gravios, and I think essentially failed in every regard. His only notable mechanic is that he rolls around a lot, which, while unique for his time, is still, even in 5th gen, the only thing that he actually does. Basically, he really struggles in every aspect. Steel Uragaan not only is starting with a disadvantaged foundation, but is actually just mechanically worse. He applies stink status. That's it. That is his big differentiation from normal Uragaan. He applies the most annoying and least liked status. So how do we fix him? This is going to take a minute, but stay with me. So, first off, throw out the stink status. Let's just get a clean slate. Let's think about Steel Uragaan conceptually and do a little reworking. We know from monsters like Kushaladora and Basarios that monsters can have metallic and mineral-like hides and shells. So for Steel Uragaan, what if his diet has resulted in his chin obtaining a more metallic constitution rather than rock? Being made of metal, his orange chin would call to mind the idea of red-hot metal. So what if that's literally what it is? Steel Uragaan's time near hot lava heats his chin up, turning it into a hunk of red-hot metal. This causes it to become softer and more easy to hit, but also makes his attacks with it more threatening. In addition to him preferring to use chin attacks over rolling, chin slams will now not only have a larger damaging area of effect, but also send out flecks of hot shrapnel flying in every direction, as might happen if you were to strike hot metal. These will of course all inflict fire blight. They'll also instantaneously detonate any bombs that have been scattered nearby. For some extra ecological touches, Steel Uragaan's chin will cool over time outside lava and become more like normal Uragaan's chin and reduce the threat of his attacks. He can restore this by wading into lava, much like Royal Ludroth replenishes his spongy mane by going into water. That's all I got. I know it's not a lot, and it's still Uragaan, but I think it's at least a bit of an improvement. I had to lab that one for a while, and it doesn't even resemble the same monster anymore, but dire times call for extreme solutions. I do want to give a quick honorable mention. Tiger Striped Zamtrios. He's all the way at the bottom of the list with the rest of these schmucks. Are you for real? Y'all are sleeping on this guy. If you're watching a Monster Hunter video essay from a tiny channel you probably found on your recommendations, I assume you've played Generations Ultimate at least. You know Zamtrios. He's a good monster. Tiger Stripe is just him, but he gets big more often, and he does paralysis, and he looks cool. If you've not played 4 Ultimate, then that's fair, but you've got some homework to do from this video. You've got plenty of time before Wilds comes out. Go play Freedom Unite and 4 Ultimate. 2 of the best old gen games for sure. You're missing out on some bangers. Shout out to Desert Celtis as well, by the way, tied with Steel Uragaan. I tried adding him to this video, but there's just nothing to do for him. Desert Queen Celtis isn't even very good if you try to consider them as a pair. It's a hopeless situation all around. So that just about does it. This video was a little bit more creative focused than my last ones, so hopefully it was still interesting. What do you think about some of the unpopular monsters? Do you want to see any of them come back, and what do you think they would need to be improved? What did you think of my ideas? As always, I'm interested in reading people's comments. Make sure to like the video if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this one. I'm trying to put out more videos and grow the channel, and that stuff helps a ton, so I appreciate it a lot. That's all for now. See ya.